What up, rough leaders? Welcome back to my channel. This is day 2 in Prashad Nagar. We're taking a tour of this neighborhood, Prashad Nagar in Georgetown, Guyana. I asked some folks that's Campbelville, so we're crossing now over Delhi Street. We looked at Delhi Street yesterday. We're crossing over Delhi Street into Prashad Nagar. I asked some folks yesterday to help me with the history of this neighborhood in Georgetown, Prashad Nagar, and a few people responded thanks to Miss Hari Prashad, who gave me a little rundown of the history, which I'll share with you now. Prashad Nagar is in fact about 76 acres of rice field. Originally it was rice field. It was purchased by a real estate developer, Mr. Hari Prashad, in the 1950s, the mid 1950s, when it was an abandoned rice field. And now it is a fully developed community. He named the streets after members of his family, and that's how we have names like Amla Avenue, which we're going to take a look at today. That's Amla Avenue. In fact, both streets in parallel are Amla. And somebody asked me to show them the promenade, the new promenade they built in Prashad Nagar. We're going to try to find that today and give you a rundown on this neighborhood. So Mr. Hari Prashad, who had recently returned to Guyana from his trips abroad and to India in particular, came back and bought this land, a vacant rice field, and he named it Prashad Nagar. Prashad being the family name and Nagar being an Indian word, I guess in Hindi meaning home. So this is Prashad Nagar. He named some of the streets after his members of his family. And what we'll do is go down the center of Prashad Nagar today and see what's happening in this neck of the woods. So this is Amla Street in Prashad Nagar. Streets don't have names. Well, the names are not assigned. I guess if you Google it, you'll probably be able to find a map with all the street names. This is a little park for kids that was built in the center of the neighborhood in Prashad Nagar. These homes, the plots of land, were purchased from Hari Prashad by individual homeowners, builders, and they built their own homes in Prashad Nagar. So it's a little more than 76 acres. It runs in rectangle that's bounded by Campbelville to the east and Sophia to the Campbelville to the west, Sophia to the east. And the south, there's Llama Gardens, and north there is Plantation Bel Air. And in fact, we left Plantation Bel Air yesterday. In other words, we came to Prashad Nagar from north yesterday, and today we're going from south to north. We're going in the opposite direction, going up the middle of Prashad Nagar. So a lot of these homes were built by the original purchasers of the land, and the streets were named. Morning. The streets were named. This is Amla, right? The streets were named by the Prashad family after places he had visited in India and members of his family. And that's how you get Amla Avenue. You get Chandranagar Street, and the one coming up here is Prashad Nagar Street. Continues north, but you also have interesting street names. like Delhi Street, which we came on yesterday. And well, this one I think is still named Campbell Avenue. Campbell Avenue runs the length of Prashad Nagar and Campbelville, so it came over from Campbelville, continued as Campbell Avenue through Prashad Nagar. But the other streets, the next parallel street to this one named Chandranagar, also runs parallel to Campbell Avenue and runs the entire length, or width in this case, of Prashad Nagar. So what has happened is that over the years, like everywhere in the city, people have migrated, left Prashad Nagar, went to live abroad in the US and Canada and the UK, but have started to come back and rebuild their homes, to renovate their homes. And this wave of renovation is seeing some architecture that they have picked up in North America. So for example, this new home under construction is clearly a North American block construction, rectangular, built with some of the same features that you'd find perhaps in cities in New York and Toronto. Another house being built here. So this wave of development from people who have returned to Guyana after living abroad for many years is seeing houses that are larger, using the same lot, houses that are taller, and designs that are obviously popular at this time in North America. In the previous wave, in the 1990s, people were still building homes with features that are clearly Indian in origin. In other words, they were copying architecture from India. I've shown some of those in the videos. So Bryanville, I think I showed some houses that looked like they were India design. But here you're seeing this wave of renovation and development from people who are returning to Guyana, building bigger, taller houses on the same lot, and using architecture from North America, where most of these people have been living for decades. Right, so some of it is also Canadian, right? This would be perhaps what the original house was renovated to be in the 1980s, right? Original house built in the 1950s, 60s would have been renovated to look like that in the 1980s. And 1970s and 80s you had these split levels, right, where you had one long sloping roof and a short sloping roof on the other side. That was a split level of the 1970s. This is a renovation from the 1960s, but this is what happened in the 1990s, I think, 1990s, 2000, which I said benefited from some styles popular in India. But later on, renovation reflected more of North American architecture from people who'd probably visited, who had lived in the American South or in the American Northeast or the West Coast. So this is what's happening here in Prashad Nagar. Still a vacant lot over here, a couple of vacant lots. I'm pretty sure somebody's going to snap those up and build a huge building in a minute as soon as they get hold of the homeowners, the landowners. I'm looking back where we came from. And that's a new building going up on this plot. We're now continuing on Amla Avenue. I think Prashad Nagar Street continues, the other street that's parallel to this. We're going to enter again. So this is Prashad Nagar, the center, going up the center of Prashad Nagar. It's a large home at the boundary. That's the last street in Prashad Nagar. We're going to cover that in another video. We just want to show you what happens. Morning! Looking great, man. Excellent. This one is a large glass enclosed veranda and staircase. Interesting architecture. Morning. This is what originally the houses built in the 1960s and the 70s would look like, and then they get renovated. Morning. They get renovated to look like this, which would have been, like I said, some of these homes when they were renovated in the 1990s tended to adopt some of the Indian architecture. Look at the arches, right? Take a close look at these arches. This is what I'm referring to as architecture from India, right? They tend to have this, or Asian, not necessarily in India only. You'll find some of that in Thailand as well, right? Look at the arches, the many curves, and so on. So in the 1990s, when a wave of renovation took over Georgetown, houses tended to be built to look like this. But later on, right, they started looking more and more North American as opposed to Indian. So this wave of renovation, that's a new home that's being built, is going to see homes that are taller, right, larger. Let's go back down. This is Prashad Street. Take a look at this home that's being constructed. Like I said, that's some vacant land. This one is larger. Again, guys, we're in Prashad Nagar, walking on Prashad Nagar Street, now in the center of the neighborhood, looking at some of the developments and how the homes are changing, have changed. See, saying hello, dog in the neighborhood. This one is under construction. As you can see, it's now 3 stories tall. So this wave of renovation is seeing homes that are going to be larger, taller than the homes that were renovated in the 1980s, 90s, and early 2000s. Right? So, saying hello. So guys, this is Prashad Street, Prashad Nagar Street. There you go. Morning. This one is going to be 3 floors tall and with a lot of outdoor space, balconies. A lot of balconies, and more reminiscent of the homes that you probably find in North America, but having to go up taller because of the footprint of the land is small. The footprint of the house is small. So yes, guys, this is what's happening here in Prashad Nagar, and as I said before, this wave of renovation is seeing larger homes, bigger homes, and more of a North American architecture. I'm going to continue up Prashad Nagar Street, the street in the center of the neighborhood, and go all the way to the end, which is going to take us into Plantation Bel Air, which was where we saw Dr. Jagan's heritage home. So this is what's happening in Prashad Nagar. One of the quiet, in fact, one of the older suburbs, like I said, built in the 1950s by Mr. Prashad, who was a developer, and now going through major renovations. I suppose this one is Chandranagar Street. Is it? Yes, I think. Well, I'm gonna check that out in the map. But we're gonna take a little walk up Chandranagar to see what's happening with these renovations, a red door, right? This is much of a urban style. Next door to it is something you probably would find somewhere in South Georgia, Marietta or Macon. But this huge building is one of the more recent types of homes being constructed in Guyana, where the footprint, in other words, the house takes up all of the land, and there's no outdoor space, but it maximizes the square footage, and that's the sort of thing that's happening. I think this style might have been copied from maybe the Canada, Ontario. Look at the arches, you can see the arches are smooth, right? So in this wave of renovation, they haven't really copied the Indian architecture like they did in the 1990s, but they have copied the size, right? They're building mega mansions, Mac mansions, like they did in Georgia, in southern US, in Florida. And that's the current form of renovation in the 2000s, 2020, in 2020s, and the 2010s. This is the style of home that was built. They're much larger. This was probably a 1980s renovation, and that's the original. This home, for example, is not abandoned, but I will assume that the residents are probably still abroad, and eventually, once this wave of renovation catches on, all of that land that appears to be vacant is going to be revived and rebuilt. But this is what's happening here, guys. This is a Georgia style mansion coming to the boundary of Prashad Nagar, right, the eastern end of Prashad Nagar. On the other side of this divide is Sophia. So this is what's happening in Prashad Nagar. These are homes on Eastern Expressway. Morning. Right, this is the eastern end of Prashad Nagar. As you can see, what we would call a Georgia style Mac mansion. Here in fact, two large homes on the same plot of land here in Prashad Nagar. This is the eastern boundary. And going all the way down to, I think this is Eastern Expressway. On the other side, that's Sophia. But on this side, the eastern boundary of Prashad Nagar. So guys, this is what's happening here in Georgetown, Guyana. In Prashad Nagar, homes are larger in this wave of renovation. The homes are much more North American as opposed to Asian, right? They're bigger, but what I say, modern in design. This is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They have their building here in Prashad Nagar. This is their meeting place, the Mormons, otherwise known as Mormons. They are also present in Guyana, right? But you can see more renovation in a home behind this Mormon temple, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So that's what's happening here, guys. This is Prashad Nagar. I run through the middle and now the eastern part as we explore the development, the changes, some of the recent renovation and redevelopment in this once quiet neighborhood. Great thing is that it's still largely residential. There's not a whole lot of commercial infiltration yet of businesses, at least not on the streets that we've covered so far. I guess on Delhi Street there might be quite a few businesses, larger businesses that have infiltrated, and these large homes that are being built in Prashad Nagar, right, made to look like somewhere in Mississauga, for example. What's happening? So somewhere in Mississauga or Ontario or somewhere in South Georgia. But this is just the first wave, right, on Chandranagar Street. Morning. Where we've come up before. If you want to see more content like this, click like and subscribe. In the comments below, tell me what you think about the changes, developments, advances here in Prashad Nagar in Georgetown, Guyana. Share this video with friends and family around the world. Let people know what's happening here in Georgetown, the fastest growing country in the world. Later!